Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just to let you know, the webinar will be recorded, and I think we are ready to begin.
Thank you. Do you want to get a few more arriving, are they?
Yeah, there's a few more people. Maybe just give it about a minute.
I'll give it another minute, then we'll start. Okay.
No worries. Okay, Paul, I think we're ready to go.
Great, and I'll turn my camera on, although I'm in a car. So good morning, afternoon and evening, depending on, I guess, on where you are. So thank you very much for coming along to this, the first of our webinars for the UAS 2024 challenge. First thing to say is welcome all, and thank you for agreeing to take part. It is our 10th year, so it's a big deal for us. And we've spent the last 9 years honing the competition. So we've got ourselves into a really good place now. But these are really important events. These webinars are a chance to run you through the rules, some key pointers, also to hear from our sponsors, who are critical to enabling this competition to take place. So I ask that you listen in, ask questions. I guess you put your questions into the sidebar. We'll do our best to pick them up, and afterwards we will endeavour to answer those that we don't get a chance to do so, specifically if they're around rules, etc. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Christina, who runs the whole event really, and let you crack on. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you. What Paul didn't mention is actually Paul is the chairman for this event, so you will see him throughout the course of the whole year that you are involved within this competition, and you'll see him at the event also. But he is the face and the spokesperson for this, so please listen to what he says. It is important. So, as Paul introduced, my name is Christina Panica. I'm the Programme Manager for the UAS Challenge. So I am involved in all aspects, and you will be hearing from a lot of the committee who are volunteers, who are essential to the running of this competition. So if we just go to the next slide. So the agenda today, first of all, obviously, welcome and introduction. I'll just give you a little bit of background on the competition and what all the teams have signed up for. We'll then go through the preparation for the competition itself, including timelines, all the stuff that is not engineering, which I know for everyone is the side things we never think about, but it's so important. Visa applications, transportation, shipping, liability insurance, and communication. We'll then hear from some of our mentors, including the sponsor mentors and the steering committee. And then we've got a judging overview, which we've got two of our judges, one of our head judge, Lambert, today, to talk you through the key rules and what you should always be keeping in the back of your mind as you go through your design process. And we've got Will, one of our judges as well, to take you through X-Plane. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat box as we go along. We can answer them either in the chat box, or we will come back to them at the very end. Next slide. So we'll start off with the team list for 2024. So this is one of the most teams we've ever had, which is really great for, as Paul said, our 10th anniversary. So the 10th year that this competition has been running, and we've got 38 teams signed up so far. So as you can see, we don't just have UK-based teams, we have teams from all over the world, and some new this year as well. So it's been great to see that actually the word of the competition has spread across as far as it's got, and 38 keen teams all to take part. Then next, please. So the competition timeline. So here's just a quick overview of the time frame that we're expecting. So a lot of you will have already submitted your CDR, your concept design paper, or you should have already. But really, up until Christmas, that's where you should be developing your concept, and then moving on into your design phase, your simulation and subsystem test, a manufacturer, system test, and then flight test. When we talk about through visas, transportation, and all your liability insurance, and sorting out all them, where you need to be complicit of them actually being sorted is around this December, January frame. So I know it's all the admin on the side of the competition, but every year we have numerous teams that can't become because their visas aren't supported and processed in time. So if you really need to get them in and sorted as soon as possible, and really you should be looking to do that within the new year, and make sure you've got all the paperwork and all the supporting documentation for them processed. When we come into other aspects of your going into your design and your manufacturing stage, what you really need to be aware of is the delay and what it can be for getting parts within your design. So as soon as you've set on a design or an element of that, when it comes to, for say, landing gear or motors, it's best to get them ordered as soon as possible. And then it's the same when it comes to shipping. We've got a competition here at the end of July. You may have to ship them earlier. So you really need to put some work into actually planning how you're going to be transporting your aircraft and all the supporting materials that you need. The other aspects I want to really push here, when we come to system testing, you should not be testing the week before your competition. What I'll say from the judge's perspective and the committee's perspective, we lose so many teams every year because they do their testing the week before, something goes wrong, and then they actually can't attend the competition because they don't have enough time to repair after testing. So it's really important, and this is one of the key changes for the rules this year, that simulation and subtest is done really early on, starting from the new year, and then is right the way up to May. But it gives you sometimes then, within the May, June, if something does go wrong, you've got time to actually fix that and make sure that your work isn't lost and you can actually still take part in the competition. So we're just trying to give you a word of caution here and make sure that you actually have the best chance possible at making it to the competition at the end of June. If we go to the next slide. So competition preparation, transportation, shipping. So this year, the IMechE have partnered with RJJ Freight Limited, a customs shipping agent who can support all the countries in which we have competitors attending. And then they have agents at those locations as well. So this is the first year that we've been able to offer that. What they need is a description of your UAS and equipment along with the weight and dimension. So here's where we start talking about once you have a design settled, it's important to do all this admin work. This is not something that can be sorted within a day or two. It's weeks of preparation. The price is driven by final weight, size, limited, and whether the goods are sent by road, sea, or air. Parts and accessories are permitted, but no use of lithium batteries or certain other hazard goods. So if you do need lithium batteries, please contact us. If you can't, ship them across. And what we can do is arrange to have them delivered to a location in which you'll have to purchase them to be directly shipped to there. And so that's what we've done in previous years. But again, you need to let us know as soon as possible. You can't tell us the week before. It just will not happen. There are too many teams to be able to do that for in such short notice. So here we are again. You need to plan all of this in advance. Universities should also contact their local Chamber of Commerce and obtain a price to get an 88 carnet for all their devices. Basically a passport for your goods and permit entry into the UK without having to pay VAT and duty. The RJ Freight can arrange all the customs clearance formalities, both inwards and outwards. The time frame dispatching is dependent on the method and country of origin. So here's where we say, again, you really need to start this process as soon as possible. Full contact details will be shared with teams in early 2024 for those who wish to use this service. So please watch out for that email. If we don't hear anything from teams, we will assume it's all good. We will not be chasing you to do this. It is up to you and your team to put this into place. Go to the next slide. Okay, and visa applications. So I've already mentioned that we've had numerous teams every single year that can't attend the competition because their visas weren't processed in time. IMechE this year, I put together all of this information to tell you exactly where to go to get your visa, the types of information that you will need to provide, as well as the justification. So please note, even if you do not need a visa, you must still meet the standard visitor eligibility requirements to visit the UK. So please look at all of these links. This presentation will be made available for all teams to review. Please be aware of the cost and include that as well, because that is not something that we incur as part of the competition. That is up to yourselves to fund as well. As I said, this presentation will be made available, so I won't go through this line by line, but what we've done here is put all the key requirements and all the steps that you must follow in order to get your application processed. But please have a look at this before, so you understand all those requirements, you understand the cost, and then you can apply at the exact 3 months before the date that you need to enter the UK for the competition. So do not do it any later than those 3 months. It needs those 3 months to process. Okay. Next slide. Liability insurance as well. So this is an issue that has caused some problems in previous years. So we put a significant effort into this year to be able to attain an option for all the UK and overseas teams. So there is the option to join the BMFA who host our event. So you'll notice the event will take place at BMFA Buckminster. And you can join on a temporary basis to cover the liabilities arising from your participation. The teams are required to purchase a membership in advance of the fly-off event. BMFA membership provides the liability cover in respect of activities related to the competition and operation of your aircraft. So this is purely for the event and the competition itself. It's not travel insurance or anything for your team. It is just so that you can actually come onto the competition site. The cost for temporary membership will be £8 per person. Every person within the team that is attending on site must have that temporary membership. And at the competition, you must provide a printout with proof of that already being done. We will not let you sign into the event until you provide us with that proof. So when you come to register, we will not allow you to unload your aircraft. We will not allow you to actually come within the facility until you provide us proof of this insurance. So please, again, every year we have teams that show up and they lose the first day because of this reason. So please make sure this is all done before you attend the event. Okay, and next slide. So mentoring opportunities. For this program, we offer 2 different types of mentors. So we first have our sponsorship mentor, which pairs the teams with an industry partner on an ad hoc basis. So periods of engagement in the program is between 3 to 9 months. So it could offer support at a minimum 3 months, but to the longest 9 months. Due to the limited number of industry members, not all teams will be able to enter the scheme. So this has come, if you apply, we'll do that on that basis until we actually run out of the mentors that can be provided by industry and the sponsors. So please, if you really are interested and there is an area that you need significant help with, please let us know and we'll do the best we can to pair you with a mentor from the sponsors. The second is the steering committee mentorship. So as I mentioned previously, we have a steering committee that run this competition. Each of those are industry experts within their areas, and they dedicate their time volunteering to this competition and have done majority since the beginning of the competition. So 10 years experience on how we judge, scrutinise and apply points for this. So each team can request a 1 hour long virtual session with a member of the UAS Challenge Committee to ask any advice or guidance. So if you know in particular that you need some help and guidance with the X-plane model, you can ask for the judges that judge the X-plane and therefore can provide you some specialist knowledge on that. What we request though is that you come to us with the area that you would like some support, whether that is within the scrutineering, as I said, the X-plane, flight safety, if you're concerned that actually you don't really fully understand what that involves and you would like to ask some questions to one of our committee members, this would be your opportunity to do so. And that would be a 1 hour long virtual session with a dedicated committee member that could offer you that advice and guidance. You can see there the UAS Challenge at IMechE.org email address. Please email if you do. However, what I will caveat that with is every team if every team is interested, we will obviously have slots that fill up very quickly. There are only 15 committee members and other volunteers that can support this. So if we have everyone asking at once for one particular area, that will be difficult for us to plan, because as I said, this is done of everyone's spare time. We're all volunteers that run this program. So if you are interested, please let us know as soon as possible and what area you believe you'd want support. Next slide. Okay, so now we'll hear from 3 of our partners who will be providing mentoring for the event. So if I can introduce Leonardo. We got them on the call?
I believe we have Erin on the line from Leonardo. You may be on mute, Erin.
Hi, yeah, I'm from Leonardo. Florent and I are representing. I think he will be doing the talking.
Just bear with, I'm just enabling Florent's presenter capabilities. Florent, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can see and hear you now.
Okay. Good, thank you. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to sponsor the event, first of all, and for organizing it. Having been last year, it was really impressive. So I'll just give a quick introduction to Leonardo Helicopters and present who we are and what we do and what opportunities we offer to the students that would like us to mentor them. Sorry, next slide, please. So very quickly, Leonardo is a very big multinational group working in the aerospace and defense industry. We are across many geographies, but have a very strong presence in the UK. And all the people that will be supporting you will be coming from the helicopters division. So if you go to the next slide, please. So in terms of helicopters, Leonardo has a full range of products going from the smaller ones to the bigger ones. And we cover as many missions as you could imagine for helicopters. So this goes from basic executive transports to medical flights, utility role, and other services in the civil industry. But it also extends, and if you go to the next slide, please. So it also extends to military helicopters and other similar missions such as search and rescue and any other use that you can imagine from the militaries. That also includes dual use, so that's quite important for us. It's helicopters that can be used for both and are made for both, for a use in commercial and a use in defense, and that's quite important. If you go to the next slide, please. We have an important work in terms of research to develop our current products, but also look at future ones that are coming, looking at important technologies. And I'm thinking here about green helicopters, so not only reducing the pollution in flight, but also what do you do with a helicopter once it's reached the end of its life. But we also cover other domains like more autonomous flights and more electric flights. All these technologies we are currently developing, and we are trying to bring it to our products. Thank you. So if you switch to the next slide, we've recently opened our recruitment web page for both internal industrial placements and graduate positions for anyone in industry. So I have put the links here. I guess IMechE will be happy to forward this slide across once this meeting is over. If you go to the next slide, this slide will be sent across as well. It's our recruitment process. I won't go into details for it, but we just need to start it, a CV and a cover letter. If you publish that on the website with send across, that would get the process started. If you go to the next slide, I'll now go more about how we would support our mentees. First of all, I just want to mention that Leonardo Helicopters in the UK is the only helicopter manufacturer that can do the entire chain. By that I mean we do research, we do the design, and we go all the way to the manufacturing and to the maintenance and customer support in the UK. So our suggestions in terms of support to any mentees would be that we have monthly meeting with a designated point of contact in our engineering department. We would also be keen on attending a design review at the university we mentor, just because it's always better to have a longer exchange face to face. We would also sponsor one visit on site at Leonardo Helicopters in Yeovil, knowing that at our site we do everything, so that would really give you an overview of many of the things we can do there. You'd have the opportunity to discuss with our engineering team there. And finally, for probably the team that performs the best out of our mentees, we would give you the possibility to attend the final of another UAS challenge we sponsor in Italy. So what we'd like from our mentees really is to be proactive and organized in the way they engage with us, and most importantly, to show some enthusiasm in what they are doing. Thank you. I think, yes, I've put some points of contacts. Please feel free to contact any of us if you have any question. Thank you. That's all for us.
Okay, thank you for that, Florence. And now we'll move on to, I think it's Believe Spirit.
Yes, hello. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, good stuff. Hi, my name's Stephen Haggerty. I'm representing Spirit Aerosystems today. So as well as running through this pack on the mentorship part of the competition, I myself and another Stephen McLaughlin from Spirit are judges for the competition as well. So we can kind of cover off that side of things as well. If you go on to the next slide there, Fiona. So Spirit Aerosystems are a tier 1 aerostructures supplier, effectively. So we're headquartered in Wichita in the United States, but we have a big presence in Europe, particularly here in Belfast and Prestwick. So if anyone's been sort of following the history of the company locally, you may know us or have known us as Bombardier up to about 3 years ago, and Short Brothers prior to that. So we still are, as a legal entity, we still are Short Brothers, and Shorts are the oldest aircraft manufacturers in the world. They put the first license to build Wright flyers back in 1910, I believe. So a lot of history there, a lot of experience in the Belfast area and in the company worldwide. We kind of split our business broadly into what you see in the slide here: commercial, defence and space, and aftermarket. And if you go on to the next slide. So as I'm not going to go through all this in a lot of detail, but it's just a bit of an overview of kind of how Spirit are approaching their business and the work. I suppose the key thing locally in Belfast and in Europe is that we're building our defence and space program up from kind of the ground level, if you like. So Bombardier, who we were previously, only really dealt in the commercial sector. Now Spirit are very keen to build up a defence and space capability in Europe. So they have that already in the United States. We're kind of starting that from the ground up here in Belfast. So the goal is that the overall company would be split essentially 50-50 between commercial and defence and space programs. It'll take a number of years to get there, but that's where we're headed in Belfast. And the next slide, please. So as I said, we're a global company, headquartered in Wichita, a number of sites in the United States, but then a number of sites in Europe as well. So, and across then into Malaysia, Taiwan, Morocco. So anything basically from Belfast going east is headquartered in Belfast. So we're sort of the seat of Spirit Aerosystems Europe, and the Malaysia, Morocco sites report into us as well. So you'd be kind of, as a mentees effectively. You know, you've got access to knowledge and experience from all of those sites. We're hoping, so certainly Prestwick, we're hoping to get some of the Prestwick team on board as mentors as well as the Belfast team. If you go to the next slide. So this is sort of some of the key facts about Spirit. So 12 global locations, the 1,500 engineers, about 400 of those sit in Belfast. So again, it's quite a wide pool of engineering knowledge and talent that we have, that you would sort of have access to as a mentee. On the next slide. So on the commercial side, these are sort of some of the programs that we're involved in. So our big customer in Europe is Airbus. We do the centrifuge and the wings for the Airbus A220. Again, anyone following the program might know that aircraft previously as the C series. So the wings were developed in Belfast. In fact, the technology used to create the carbon fiber skins and spars is unique to Belfast. It's patented by us. So that's the way that we manufacture those wings is unique to our site here in Belfast. So we've got the factory for the wings, centrifuge. Prestwick do the spoilers for the Airbus A320. We do all the engineering for the center fuselage of the Airbus A350. So that's manufactured in Kingston in the United States and assembled in Saint-Nazaire in France. But the engineering team that design and develop that piece of structure is seated in Belfast, and they're now moving from the passenger variant to the freighter. The Boeing products then are all managed through Spirit Wichita, so we do a lot of work for the 737, basically the whole fuse. The front end then of the 777, the 787, the 767, and they used to do the 747 as well when that was being manufactured. And we still have a lot of work with Bombardier in the business jet division. So we used to be Bombardier, they've sold us off, but we still have the contract to manufacture the back ends of most of the business jets. That's nacelles, tail cones, and horizontal stabilizers. So as I say, we also have a reasonably wide sort of portfolio in defence, particularly in the United States, and it's increasingly large in Belfast. So can't go into the detail, obviously, in a lot of what those programs are, but that's a growing part of our business. And the next slide, please. So just then going over what we would offer as mentors. So in our engineering function, we're made up of sort of separate divisions, if you like. So we've got design, stress, systems, aerodynamics, materials, processes. So the team of mentors would be from across all of those divisions. So you would have access to a wide range of knowledge. The way we would propose setting it up is that each team would have a single or maybe 2 points of contact that you would deal with regularly, but you would have access to the whole pool of mentors. So if your mentor is a design person, for example, and you have a question on aerodynamics, that design focal that you would reach out to can then reach in the organization, talk to our aerodynamicists or talk to our systems people or whoever it is that the specialism that you would need to draw on. We would propose, similar to what the guys in Leonardo were saying, probably a monthly touch point. Again, that will be established between the teams and their mentor, depending on what works best for everybody. But we would propose at least a monthly touch point, and then obviously you can reach out at any time with specific questions or queries that you might have. Some of the mentors that have put their hands up to support this year are past participants. So as well as bringing the knowledge from Spirit Aerosystems, have also got the knowledge from your point of view as students of kind of the stumbling blocks that maybe they had hit and the questions that they had to ask during their experience in the challenge. So it was really good to see some of those guys kind of having come out of their studies into industry, working with us now, and then coming back at the UAS challenge from the other side. So they're a really good pool of guys there that'll be supporting that. As you've seen on the sort of map view earlier on, we deal with our own headquarters in Wichita. We deal with our team out in Malaysia quite frequently, so we're well used to kind of working across time zones and across the world. So it's great to see in the UAS challenge quite a wide reach to various countries right around the world. So we're quite capable and happy to support any time zone as required. So we're well set up for that. So that's kind of what we're proposing, really. But obviously we'll work with you guys and work with what suits you best. And I think that's it, Fiona, so thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen. And last but not least, it should be Callum Lenz.
Hello, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
Perfect. You can just flip on to the next slide for this one. So yeah, first of all, just thank you for letting us be a part of this. It's a really, really good opportunity for Callan Lenz. We have visited the UAS challenge previously on a couple of occasions, and much like Spirit there, we've got several previous competition winners with us in the business, so we're sort of familiar, but it's a really great opportunity for us to be involved. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about who we are, and then obviously what we can do to support you as a mentor. So we are an SME, much smaller business to the other chaps that have spoken previously, but we're going through a period of really rapid growth. So actually, even since this slide was made, we've actually got just over 150 employees. We've got 4 UK sites, but we're south of England based. Head office is sort of based fairly rurally in Wiltshire. And then we've got a couple of offices locally and up in Bristol as well. Lots of different opportunities. We're quite unique in our offering. We've got a number of core capabilities. We do the whole aircraft design and manufacture in-house. So we do everything from design and integration, test and evaluation, production, and then we also offer support and operations as well within the business. So STEM for us is critical in actually our success. We've got quite a diverse workforce, but there's quite a split between sort of very experienced operators, and then actually we have a real mix of year and industry students and graduates that have sort of come out of university and joined us, and the STEM side pretty much has been integral to a lot of our successes. So anytime we can be involved in opportunities such as this, we're really, really keen to maximise that wherever we possibly can. Next slide, please. And then just a little bit about what we can offer. So we've got some fairly similar options as Leonardo and Spirit. So also we'd very much thought sort of monthly touch points that would be scheduled and planned in. What we would do then is give the supporting team access to our subject matter experts in each area of the business. So our thoughts there is as the sort of times change processes and you get more into the project, there'll be different people that you need to wrap in at different times. So while we'll have scheduled meetings, you'll have access to them, contact details. So you'll just be able to ping an email or drop them a message at any time. So it doesn't need to be kept particularly rigid. We will also be able to offer a design review. We've been involved in a couple of projects previously where we've done that, and that's worked really nicely. But also we've got a couple of flying sites based at our head office, which is in Wiltshire. So we'll be happy to give people, the team, access to the flying site. We're open to how many visits are needed. I would have thought it would probably be once or twice. If there's any more needed than that, that's certainly something we can talk about. We've got the right people in house that we can work through all the regulations to get everything sorted. So any testing and any extra guidance that's required there, we can certainly support with, and that's not a problem. In terms of what we expect from our mentees, it's pretty straightforward. We just really want to be working with people that are as passionate as we are. We just really look for enthusiasm, innovation, people that are happy to kind of drive the project forward and work fairly autonomously, but we can then sort of knowledge share as much as possible. And of course, as I've mentioned, we've got a lot of graduates that have come out of university previously and a number of IMechE challenge competitors and winners. So we're always looking for people once they finish university, they'll be looking for career opportunities, and we'd love to be staying in touch with people and working alongside them in the future as well. In terms of who we can support, we do a fair amount of MOD work. So as a result of that, we would only be able to support UK-based teams, unfortunately. But of course, wish everybody else in the competition well, and we'll be coming up at the main event, so hopefully can meet everyone a bit more widely then. That's everything from me.
That's great. Thank you, Sally. I'll now introduce our UAS Challenge head judge, which will be Lambert, and he'll take you through some of the key judging criteria for this year.
Well, welcome everyone from the judges, and great to see so many teams this year. Now, this challenge is really an opportunity for you to put into practice some of the theory you've been learning on your courses, but it's also about trying to give you a bit of an introduction to the way industry designs and develops its aircraft and how it meets the requirements that it's trying to achieve. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what we ask you to do during the competition is deliver a series of documents and then turn up to Buckminster to fly your aircraft. And through that process of the documents you deliver and the flying, you get points, the scores that mount up to eventually end up with, we hope, a grand champion. Now, as judges, we're there to award, and we're trying to find opportunities to give you points. But we're also there to give you constructive criticism and advice. So in the feedback we give on your documents, one of our aims is to give you helpful advice as to how you correct things that we think need correcting, or help you develop your UAS. But from you, what we need is some innovative UAS designs, but specifically that meet all the requirements of the rules, all the shells in the rules you need to address. Now, we also need you to follow precisely the deliverable requirements. Now, we explain in Annex D of the rules how we want you to send us your documents and what their contents are. Now, please follow those precisely. They're there for a reason. Don't add pages we don't ask for. You know, if we don't ask for a contents page, please don't supply it. We certainly don't want to see any appendices that we haven't asked for. Keep to the page count, deliver it precisely how we ask for it. It's the best way of getting the judges in the right frame of mind to give you as many points as possible, and for us to be able to see and score all that you're presented to us. And also, please upload your files in the format that we ask. That's again explained in detail in Annex D. Just looking at the ones you've submitted so far, the ones I've looked through most of the concept papers that have been uploaded so far, and about half of you fail on one or more of these counts of either not uploading it in the format that we require, either in terms of content or in the file name. And it's a big nuisance because I have to reset all these things for you. And do please submit your deliverables on time. Again, as Christina has pointed out, all the judges are volunteers. They're busy people working in industry, and so they haven't got time to mess about and accommodate for documents being delivered late. And then again, please arrive at Buckminster with a fully tested and compliant UAS. Make sure that you're reading the 2024 challenge rules. We have in the past found people still working on the year before rules, which is not terribly helpful, particularly as we've made quite a few changes this year to the rules. And do make use of the advice that's given, both by us as judges and any mentoring opportunities you pick up with. And if in doubt, ask. Send a message into the IMechE, and that the IMechE will send it out to judges or whoever. And so anything that you don't quite understand or please ask about, we want to see a successful challenge and all of you flying as well as possible. So the next slide, please. Well, just for those universities who were part of it last year, I just quickly go through some of the bigger changes in the rules this year. We're moving to what's termed an urban canyon aid mission, as if you were doing your aid mission in a city, maybe with an earthquake or other problems. And so your UAS will have to be more maneuverable. The little picture on the right, gives an example of maybe the sort of way you'll have to go around the waypoint. So you will have to be more maneuverable than we've had in the past. We're also mandating a minimum aid payload of 1.25 kilograms. One is this is an aid mission, and so flying without any aid is maybe a bit pointless, but also the airdrop box that you will be using to get the parachute to open properly, you need some mass in the box, and so you must aim with your design of a 10 kilogram total all up weight, of which 1.25 kilograms is the SAN, the aid payload you'll be carrying. Now, we're also asking you to be specific about the center of gravity of your aircraft, because in the past, clearly some of them have struggled to fly somewhat because you haven't attended fully to the CFG position. And so we want to see that marked on your aircraft drawings each time you submit them, and actually on the flight vehicle itself, and this is explained in the rules. You can launch your aircraft either the conventional undercarriage with catapults or even the trolley system, but you're not permitted to hand launch your aircraft. This year, with costs of things going up, we've increased the COTS advice to the commercial off-the-shelf components to 1,300 UK pounds. If you do exceed that amount, you won't get excluded, but you need to explain why it is that you've exceeded that amount. And we do understand, I mean, certain of the non-UK teams, that the cost of things can often be higher than it is here. This year we'll be asking you to land within a 10 meter by 20 meter area. And we'll also introduce, we're not going to allow any test flying at Buckminster this year, but there will be the IMechE's flight safety officer will fly each of your aircraft manually, doing a takeoff, a simple loop round and a landing, to assess its flying qualities, how well you've designed the aircraft, and points will be awarded for that flying quality assessment. We've done some changes to scoring I'll go through in a moment. We're also asking you this year to bring with you to Buckminster a paper copy of all the documents that you've produced during the trial, so the judges can look back at those while they're talking to you in the pits at Buckminster. We've also brought the XPay model earlier, and I'll explain that in a moment. And we're not requiring an FRR, a flight readiness review video this year. These aren't changes to the rules, but just two very important things to attend to. You must comply with the UK's drone and communications regulations to be allowed to fly. And this, for UK teams, even includes when you're doing your test flying, you must make sure you're complying fully with UK drone and communications regulations. And also, just another reminder of two important safety features of the aircraft: the battery isolation link and the flight termination system. If you don't do those properly, you won't be allowed to fly at Buckminster. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Okay, as Christina has already mentioned, that this is the sort of timeline that industry would use, giving plenty of time for testing at the end of the process. And during this period, we're asking you to deliver to us certain things and undertake certain other things. So the concept paper, you've got less than 12 hours now to deliver those. And at the last count, I think there are 19 teams yet to deliver your concept paper. But so that should largely completed, and a good many of you already submitted your paper. So you should now be moving to the start of your detailed design of your UAS. Now, one of the ways that industry ensures that what you design is what you wanted to design and fully meets the customer requirements and is going to perform as competitively as possible is go through 3 important design reviews that the aircraft industry generally uses. And that is the PDR, the CDR, and the FRR. That's the preliminary design review, the critical design review, and the flight readiness review. Now, this year, we're not asking you to upload these activities to IMechE, but we do want you to undertake them. I'll go through in a moment a little bit more detail of what we expect from them, but you would normally do your preliminary design review shortly after you've started your design. And that is a way of ensuring that you're setting off on the right track. You will then do your critical design review when you think you're fully completed your design and are ready to go into a lot more detailed test and onto manufacture, and then your flight readiness review before your first flight. Now you'll see in terms of deliverable, the next deliverable that you need to upload to IMechE is your X-plane model. Now, we would expect and hope that you're using X-plane as part of a design tool, using that simulation as part of your design process. But we've given you some generous amount of time before you have to upload that to IMechE, and the judges will be flying your X-plane model to see how well it performs. The design and development specification, we moved even later still to the middle of April, although all of the work we hope should have been done by the end of February, but it's just to spread out your workload and also some of the judges' workload as well. And so that's an important document, and please follow the rules, the way we've asked you to put that together. And then finally, just before you come to Buckminster, there is a flight readiness review form that we want you to fill in, which details your licensing of your drone, your insurance, and various other parameters that you must submit before you arrive at Buckminster. Okay, I now just talk a little bit, if we can go to the next slide, please. Oh yes, those are the deliverable dates. They're all in the rules, so do please make sure you deliver these items on time. And now I'll talk about the design reviews just a moment. The reason for doing design reviews is it's a way of making sure you're on track with your design and meeting all of the requirements. Now, the way we'd hope you do those is you get your whole team together, ideally with an independent person as the chairman, maybe your academic supervisor, or even a mentor you're signed up with. And as I said, you do the PDR shortly after you've started your initial design, and the CDR at the end of that. And what you're looking at in these design reviews, you're going through all of the requirements and checking that you are addressing every single of the mandated requirements in the rules. And you're looking at your program to make sure you're going to get things in time, that you're going to have ordered your components in time, etc. And so it's a fairly formal process. But by doing a PDR fairly early on, you make sure that you haven't forgotten something and waste an awful lot of time when later on you suddenly realise you've not considered properly how you're going to do the flight termination system, say. And then the critical design review is called a critical design review because that's the point at which we said, you know, I've frozen this design now. Everything else is about making things and testing things. And I'm not going to have to go back and redesign things. And then the third one is the flight readiness review before your first flight, is you do that to make sure that you're satisfied that your aircraft is actually going to fly when you try it, and that you have addressed all of the safety considerations for doing that first flight. Now, as I said, we don't want you to upload anything to Machine on these, but we do want you to make detailed records of each of these design reviews and bring them along to Buckminster as part of your portfolio. And in those notes, we'd expect to see exactly what you've looked at during those reviews, what corrective actions you have seen, as if, you know, that you understand, well, the undercarriage looks a bit flimsy, I need to do something with that. So you should be placing an action on one of your team members to take responsibility for doing that with a completion date. And we want to see that all recorded in your design reviews. And it should be signed off by both the chairman of the design review and the team leader. Okay, the next slide, please. So on the scoring, again, this is in the rules. And so as you'll see, the scoring is split around. There are a lot more points this year for the flight demonstration, and there are a large number of points for your X-plane model as well. The fact that some things like the concept paper and the flight readiness review only attract a few points doesn't mean to say they're not extremely important. It's just the way that we're allocating the point score. You've still got to do them, and the better you do them, the more likely you are to be successful at the end. And on to the next one, please. Right, just a brief word on the mission scoring. Again, please read the rules exactly how each of these are made up, these steps. There are one or two small errors in the rule this year. On the card drop, the total points you can get for it is 200, but the example we've given underneath has a small error in it, arithmetic error. So we will be updating the rules for 2 or 3 small errors in the rules this year, but none of these should affect the way you design your aircraft. But just do look at how the mission is scored, and so you can tackle that in the way that you're going to score the highest amount. But remember, you have a limit of 15 minutes for your mission. And you will have 3 attempts at doing your autonomous flight. You will have the manual flight first, and then you will have up to 3 attempts at doing your autonomous flight, and the flight with the highest score is the one we count. Okay, on to the next slide, please. And the next one. So the awards. Oh, sorry, back one. There's the grand champion, runner-up, and third place awards that are all based on the points you score for all your documents and the flying, etc. But there are a whole load of other awards for innovation, safety, etc. And so lots of opportunity to get awards. And so don't ignore those in your planning and how you present your documents and present yourself at Buckminster. So that's a quick run through the judging side. I hope I've captured most things, and we look forward to seeing you all at Buckminster at the beginning of July, and of course receiving your documents before then. Thanks very much.
Okay, I'll now introduce Will Cave, who again is one of the UAS Challenge judges with Lambert, and he'll be taking you through the Explain submission.
Hello, hi. So yeah, thank you, Christina. I'm Will Cave. I'll be going through the few slides now on the Explain submission, cover why we're doing it, what you need to do, what we're going to do with your models when we get them, and how the scores are then broken down specifically for the Explain bit. So next slide, please. So why are you doing that? Well, as per the purpose, you're going to demonstrate your final design and provide a method of testing performance of your aircraft. So obviously, simulation and recently in vogue digital twins. This isn't that, but it's on the way to that. Is a really important part of assessing your design before turning it into hardware. You should hopefully be able to change things relatively quickly and easily in Explain, do some quick tests to find out, does this work or doesn't it work? One thing I will caveat though, so Explain is principally intended for light aircraft and airliner style aircraft simulation. And along with all tools, it suffers from garbage in, garbage out. So you'll have to be a bit circumspect with what you put in. If you think you've discovered some miracle formula for making something work really, really well, chances are you haven't. You might have done, you probably haven't, and it might just be a feature of the simulation. So things that we want from you then, significant bit is going to be a pilot handbook. So all of your aircraft are going to be different, and we will be hand flying in Explain all of the submissions. So we need to have some idea of how to control your aircraft, what unique controls your aircraft has, what are its performance parameters, what should we expect before we try and fly the aircraft. When you deliver your Explain submission, it needs to be in a single folder just to make transmission easier. And so what we will do with that before we fly the aircraft, we're going to go through it in PlaneMaker. We'll check a few of the characteristics. We're not going to try and check every single number that you've put in to make sure it matches up with something, or see if you've put anything totally unfeasible in. Like you will be able to hide stuff if you want to hide stuff, but it's a general check to make sure that what you present matches with what you have, what you have delivered in the simulator matches with what you are presenting in your documentation as you go through. So next slide, please. So as I said, we're going to fly your models around a simulated environment of Buckminster. So using the same locations for the waypoints, we'll have a go at flying the aircraft around. We will try this a couple of times. So we're not going to have many opportunities to learn quirks of your aircraft's behavior. So that's why the manual is really important. But although there are scores for this, really use the Explain model as a tool for investigating changes to your aircraft and, investigating the configuration that you've chosen. We are using Explain 12 for the assessment. So aircraft made in Explain 11 will load into Explain 12 without any changes directly. However, there are differences in the simulation. So although an Explain 11 model will load in 12, that's not to say it will perform the same in 12 as in 11. And if you've got an Explain version earlier than 11, it won't load at all. You can get a free version of Explain, which includes PlaneMaker, the tool for doing it, and that should be sufficient to do this kind of development and quick flights. So in the questions I've just seen, hopefully I've just answered that. Yes, you have to use Explain 12. Well, no, you can use X-Plane 11, but there's no guarantee that it will work the same in X-Plane 12. So I would say use X-Plane 12. Noted in red. So you may have installed mods or sceneries or who knows what, or you may have saved various aerofoil files. What we recommend is before you submit your X-Plane 12 zipped file, have a blank install of X-Plane which has no additions in it, and then load your aircraft using that install. We frequently get things where you might have had some mod installed and you've forgotten about it, or you've had some aerofoil installed in the global aerofoil folder, and then when you send us your file, it doesn't work on our end because we don't have those mods or those aerofoils installed. So before you send us, make sure you check that your model will fly on a fresh install of X-Plane. Next slide, please. So here's the scoring breakdown. So 150 points is the total for it, and that makes up, it's about 1,000 points for the total thing. So it's about 15%, slightly more than 15% of the overall score. So it's definitely worth putting in some effort to do this. Pilot handbook is only 25 points, but frankly, it will influence our ability to fly the mission scenario. So although it's only 25 points, it can affect the 100 points for the majority of it. Plane maker check, we'll just go through and make sure that we have all those things sort of specified as we would expect them. And then 100 points for us flying the scenario. Noting that we've got many aircraft to fly. Hopefully you'll all have produced us wonderful X-planes and we'll have too many to look at. But that means that we're going to have limited time. So yeah, please make sure that your pilot handbook is succinct and covers everything we need to know to fly your aircraft successfully. Thank you. That's it for the X-Plane model. So as with all the other areas, if you have any questions, shoot an email into the IMechE. They can send them out to us and we can try and answer them as quickly as possible. But yeah, don't sit and worry about a problem. Ask us and we'll try and help you. We want to see as many of these X-Plane models and as many of the physical aircraft flying as possible, because we're all aviation geeks too, and we want to see what you can come up with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Will. I will just clarify, it's X-Plane 11 that has to be used for the competition. Has to be X-Plane 11. Yeah, no problem, Will. Because the actual mission scenario that we will put your aircraft through only works with X-Plane 11. If you submit an X-Plane 12, which we did have happen last year, it will not work. It won't load your aircraft. It will just come up with a fuselage with no wings or anything else. So please, I beg, do not lose all of that work. Submit it and make sure you've got a version of X-Plane 11. Do not use X-Plane 10 either. It does work, but there are more limitations with X-Plane 10 that it actually goes against you. As Will said, the X-Plane can be used on the free version. You don't have to go buy it. So it should be available to everyone. So please use X-Plane 11 for that. It will be in your benefit. But other than that, thank you everyone for listening. This is the first of what will be multiple webinars throughout the year. It's really important that someone from each team attends these webinars to actually, these are key for us to relay information that we think is critical, and that is normally because of what we've seen in previous years. We will be having sponsors come talk to you about different design elements, different technical specifications throughout as well. And obviously from there as well, you will also be having some of the steering committee, such as we get closer, the scrutineers will give you a brief on what they're looking for as well and what they expect. Same with flight safety. So it's important that you do attend these webinars and make full use of them where possible. But thank you, and I now open up to any Q&A, if we've got any in the chat.
I noticed Christina, there's one about waypoints there. Just to answer that question, what you will be doing in practice is you will be flying round the course twice before you release your payload, and then you keep flying if you want to continue and have time to continue to add points by going round on the endurance part of it. Having released your payload, you don't land, you just keep flying round the waypoints in the same order as many times as you can within both the 15 minutes and allowing yourself to still have the residual energy left in your battery that we specify. So yes, so that's how you do it.
There's another question there. What is the typical turning radius in an autonomous mission? So in terms, what we will do is give you a set of waypoints on the first day of the competition. So this is the first day of competition flying. So everyone gets them themselves. What it is for the teams will have to know how the performance of their aircraft is. What you can then do is add additional waypoints within those to make sure your aircraft can do those turning radius. We will not give that specification because it is, again, it's a humanitarian aid mission. You will not always know what that is. So we will give you a set of waypoints and you will have to know your aircraft performance and your flight handling qualities to be able to determine what actually you need to be able to make that turn. So everyone is on a fair basis for that one. Okay, there's another question there, Lambert, regarding the cargo drop box regulations. So is this talking about the airdrop box?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there is. Sorry. Well, yes. Do you want to answer that?
I've just responded to it in the chat. I put a link to the airdrop box website. So yes, it's 15 by 12.5 by 20, not 15 by 12.5 by 30.
Yeah. And what we'll say
yes,
with that.
But remember, the parachute is slightly bigger.
Yeah, so I think that's where the 10 centimeters come in, is the additional space required for the parachute.
The parachute, yes.
Yeah, so they'll all be talking about the same thing, it's just different measurements. So please check those as you're going through. In terms of the sample box, you can contact Airdrop Box through the information on the website, and they will send you a sample for testing. So that's not IMechE sort. You can contact Airdrop Box through their communication point. Okay, there's a question, Fiona, for Mushroom. We'll take that one offline and we'll see why you haven't had an invitation to the Mushroom account. If you could just email the IMechE email address for the UAS challenge and put your university name, and we can sort that out for you. Day 2 of the competition. So the first day of competition is for everyone to come set up and provide all the necessary documentation as to do safety checks. The second day will consist of flying. It will only be manual flying. And then once all the manual flights have been done, we will then go into competition flying for that. So day 2, we do expect some manual flying to take place. The manual flying, as we've said, does count towards your score. It is a check. It will be looked at, and you will not be able to fly competitively until you can pass that. So it is part of the competition. It has to be completed. So that will be one of the necessary things for the first day. Is there a way to know the team's name? That your team's name is your team name. You decide on that one. We'll allocate you a number, and in every submission you should have your team number, your university name, and your team name. So you can call it anything you want, but please, just something pleasant. Are there any? Lambert, there's a question there for judges. Can you make edits to the concept paper submission after submitting? they're missing a signature.
No, I mean, as this webinar has happened after you've submitted your concept paper, we'll be lenient on you not having read the format properly. I will just write some critical comments on the feedback to remind you that you must do it properly. Get the cover sheet. The cover sheet is important. It must have a picture of your aircraft on the cover sheet of when you submit your design and development specification. Some of the judges get quite annoyed when they can't see, have to read all the way through the document before they see what format it's how it's going to look. But no, don't upload further documents now. If you've already uploaded them, we'll be generous.
Okay. Next question, could you specify what will happen on each day again? So this will be a subject of another webinar as we get closer to the flight test, but a quick overview would be for day 1. That is for team's arrival, and IMechE will check that you've got all the required paperwork, you've read the safety case and all the safety documentations, and you sign to say you're going to be part of the competition and the live event. That will enable everyone then to set up their work area, get their UAS unloaded, and the scrutineer, judges and safety personnel will be there to overview that as well. So that's the first day, which is arrival midday. The second day, third day and fourth day is when competition flying can take place. So manual flights will take place on day 2 as the minimum, with then the hope to competition fly if we have successful manual flight tests that following afternoon. Day 3 and day 4 then will also be competition flying with the awards on day 4. So it is essential that everyone arrives on day 1 for that registration. There will be a safety brief, so all teams need to be there for that. But as I said, there will be another webinar and more details that will come out regarding all those dates, specifically on the agenda for each day closer to the event. Another one for you, Lambert, do COTS include the ground equipment, transmitters and radio?
No, the COTS, exactly what we include as COTS is specified in 4.5 of the rules, and it is just the airborne elements of commercial off-the-shelf. I mean, don't get over worrying about this. I mean, the 1,300 UK pounds is a strong recommendation. We don't, this has got to be an affordable aircraft, and as part of your Dragon's Den activity at the competition, you'll be making the business case for your aircraft, and if you've spent thousands and thousands of pounds on the equipment, it is not going to be competitive in the marketplace. So we just want to give you an indication of what is reasonable to spend. And as I said, we do ask you, if you spend above the £1,300, which you may do for a reason or other, to explain why you've gone over that limit.
I think one thing to note as well, we did have one year a team including the materials as part of their COTS. So, they bought some carbon spars, they include that as COTS. That's not COTS, that's just, a bit of material that you use.
I guess the next one about the parachute is you can use your own parachute. You don't have to use the airdrop box parachute. That's up to you.
Yeah. And the next one, the 20 times 10 meter rectangle that you must land in. We will be given a waypoint, and the waypoint will be the center of that. And then there will be on the ground a marker for the 20 times 10 meter rectangle. Okay, will teams be allotted an X-Plane mentor as last year? So this is part of the steering committee mentor program that I spoke about earlier on in the presentation. If you know you want significant help with X-Plane and you would like to make use of our X-Plane mentorship and use it for that's your 1 hour that you've been allocated, please email IMechE and we will arrange that with one of our judges or personnel that are equipped to deal with those X-Plane. But if you could, as I said, explain what it is you want to discuss or any problems that you are having so that we can be prepared and make full use of that hour for that. My team was waiting for this meeting to upload the concept. Is there any problem if we haven't uploaded it? There isn't a problem if you haven't uploaded it yet. I think the deadline, Lambert, you said was around 12 hours away, about an hour ago, so 11 hours.
Yeah, it's midnight tonight, Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, so you've still got some time to upload it, so that's not a problem until waiting after this webinar, but it should be in by midnight this evening. Okay. Regarding the team members' information, sent it via email. Via email is fine, as long as you send it to the IMechE UAS challenge email address. Lambert, one for you. Do you need details about the masses, C of G, and the concept paper?
No, because you haven't done your detailed design yet, so I would be surprised if you know precisely those details at this stage. So, I mean, the concept is just as it says, it's the idea you're doing, and then one wouldn't expect you to have got that all precise until you've reached the point of your CDR at the end of your design process.
Okay, thank you. What are the limitations of the contribution of the sponsors in the team? I'm not
Could I just go back to the one about the waypoints? Will the plane go over or around the waypoints? You must go around the waypoints. Well, you mustn't cut the corner. You could go over it, but you mustn't go under it, and so shorten the distance that you travel.
Yep. I'm not quite sure on the limitations of the contribution of the sponsors in the team. If you are talking about the sponsors in terms of being involved within your design, they shouldn't be involved in your actual design or in the documentation you're producing, but they're just there to offer advice and guidance. Or if the sponsors are there to offer equipment or money contributions, they should be limited to that. The whole design should be designed by the team members that are competing. If I've misinterpreted that question, please add some more to the chat. We've already gone through the dimensions of the aid box. Please have a look at that link. It is referred to in multiple different formats in terms of the sizing, but that include one is the aid drop box itself, and the other one is the addition of the parachute package. So please have a look at the link that is in the chat. One for you again, Lambert. Is it possible for some of the members to do the Dragon's Den online, as some of them will not make it to the fly-off?
I don't think that's particularly practical, that we only have a small room to do the Dragon's Den at Buckminster, and I'm not sure that the connections to the web are that particularly good there. So I don't think that's a practical proposition. We just expect one or two of your team members who are at the flying event to come in and present the Dragon's Den.
Yeah, the BMFA Buckminster site, for all of you are aware, we are testing here potentially 38 UAS that have never been tested in that environment before, all designed by ourselves and used as competition members. You can guess it, we're in a massive field in the middle of nowhere. The reliance on Wi-Fi should not be ideal for anyone. It cannot be relied upon, but that's the nature of where we are, unfortunately. As I said, do you provide an air box for test? You can go on the airdrop box website and there's contact information in there. I also believe it's in the rules. And you can request a sample for testing purposes. So that's something you have to arrange. It's not done through the IMechE. Are you allowed to distribute the payload within the box to change your CFG to your advantage?
Well, yes, you are. The one thing you mustn't do is do any permanent change to the box. And so if you want to stuff some paper or something else in so that your sand sits in a particular point of the box, that's fine. The points you score are for the weight of sand and not anything else you put in the box. And remember that all that weight of the aircraft mustn't exceed 10 kilograms. But yes, you can introduce things that you can take, to position the sand in the box appropriately. But you might want to think about the environmental impact of what you're doing. So lots of plastic and things is probably not a good idea.
Okay. The next one, in the X-plane simulation, will you provide us the map? The map of the X-plane simulation is already in the rules. It's the example flight test that is carried out on the live flight over the 4 days. It is an exact mock-up of what will be carried out in the actual flying event. So that map will be the basis for that. So it will be exactly the same that's crossed into the live event. We will, as you said, do 2 attempts at going round that course. The first one really is with your pilot handbook, is that we can understand the flight handling qualities of your aircraft, so that we can understand actually what is the radius that we need to go around a waypoint. As it's only manual flight, the simulation, the X-plane simulation, the pilot will need all of that information to understand how your aircraft handles, and that first flight will be for them to understand all of that.
What it might be worthwhile doing is giving a little bit of scale to that map. From the takeoff point to the furthest waypoint will be approximately 500 meters. I think that's right, Chris, who I think is on the call.
He is, and he was answering questions.
Yes, he's answering questions. I can see that. So
sorry, was that
I'm here
me?
but muted. But I think, unless you disagree, then write a disagreement, Chris, that take that to be about 500 meters. So you can scale off from that and get some feel, therefore, of the turn radius that you will be requiring. We'll maybe try and put a scale on this map to help you in that.
If everyone goes on to Google Maps, and you can actually translate the map that we've provided, because we created it off Google Maps, and you'll be able to see an example of the waypoints and sort of the distances that we're doing. We could look at providing one of them with a bit more scale to help everyone out.
Oh, we can see Chris now.
Yeah, I was muted out. I wasn't in as a presenter. The important thing is when we actually come to the fly off, we've got a limitation on how far we can fly, because we have to be in visual line of sight. So when people are going round the cones, if they go too far out, then we might end up breaking a rule by just flying too far or hitting a geofence, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we will provide them the information for the geofence, and the waypoints will be far enough in that we shouldn't expect you to go anywhere near that, hopefully.
Cool. If anyone has any questions for me, sorry, I've got to run off to another Zoom, but while I'm here, otherwise I'm literally about to leave.
There's no other ones at the moment, Chris.
Cool.
So thank you very much.
So I'm glad to be here for 10 seconds.
There's a question, Lambert, do you have any advice for the concept paper to get as high score as possible?
Well, follow presented in exactly the way we've asked for it. I would ask, I have noticed one team has already used 2 columns on their paperwork. Please, in future, in your future documents, is just a single column as well. It just makes it very awkward to read on a laptop, and everyone will be reading these things on laptops. And so don't make the print too tiny. Don't use lots of columns. I know it's tempting to try and cram in as much detail as possible, but be precise in what you're trying to sell us, and just present everything in exactly the way we've asked for it.
The next question, will a payload be provided to test with? As we've already said, you can order an example payload airdrop box from the airdrop box website. The actual payload that we put in, so your weight, if you choose 1.2 kilograms, that will actually just be sand. So we will provide the sand on the day of the competition. So you can use anything that you want to test it. Ideally, you would use sand to be able to build the actual weight of your payload. The working hour and rules in the pit will be the same as last year. So we have a time in which the pits for every team will open, and it's normally between 8:30 and 9 and 5:30 and 5:30 in the evening. We'll define that on the day of the competition because it is dependent on how many people we've got on site, but you are not permitted to enter except for those times. So we will open the pits in the morning, and that's when every team member can go in, and the same with the evening. You will not be permitted to work on your UAS overnight. It has to be within a supervised location, and it has to have volunteers there to supervise. The waypoint locations will be announced on competition flying day. So the first competition flying day, every team will be given a piece of paper with the waypoint locations to make it fair. Okay, Will has shared the airdrop box website. As the rules have mentioned that we cannot use tools to assemble the UA, I wonder if we can use tools to assemble the propeller.
Yes, this was one of the ambiguities in the rules, that when you're doing your test of assembling your aircraft out of its storage box, you shouldn't be using tools. You can't use tools for doing that, but we don't ask you to fit the propellers at that stage because it would be dangerous in the hangar, because we're asking you to power up the aircraft. But yes, clearly when you're out and you have been given permission to fit your propellers to your aircraft, then you may use tools to do so, as it would be unsafe otherwise.
Great. I think that's all the questions. We'll give it 5 seconds to see if there are any more. Okay, great. I think that is everything. But no, if there are no more questions, if the sponsor help us in the material and laboratory, there is no problem.
Well, I think that's a slightly tricky one, is that, I mean, you shouldn't be getting somebody else to build your aircraft. I mean, think what the point of this challenge is for you to learn how to design things, how to make things. It's helping you in your education and preparing you for when you go into industry. And so if you get other people to do this stuff for you, you're rather detracting from the value you will get out of the challenge. So yes, in so much, I guess, that they might allow you access into their laboratory to use some of their tools, maybe, if that's a challenge for you, but you shouldn't be getting them to do things for you. unless your university rules require that technicians have to do certain activities for safety reasons, and then clearly, if those are the rules of your university, then you have to abide by those.
Okay, hopefully that answers that question. But I think that's all the questions, so we'll call an end to the webinar there. Thank you all for attending. I hope it has been as insightful for yourselves as it has been for us on the committee. And we look forward to the next webinar and your feedback from all the concept papers and everything that you will be receiving. You'll find the presentation that'll be uploaded to the IMechE Mushroom site for your viewing after this session. So thank you very much.